Prof, have you checked if the mic is working? Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Folashade Edu, and with me I have...
My name is Untitled Chapter.
Welcome to another session of Accent Debt Recovery. And today we'll be talking about debt recovery and client privacy, what you should know. So I'm going to give you like a quick story. For instance, we have a client that works to one of all these, credit companies and asks for a sum of money. And of course, they give him a due date that, okay, on so day your loan will become due and you'll be expected to pay back. But all of us know how the country is. Sometimes debtors do not want to, but they eventually default. And upon defaulting, this particular debtor gets a lot of recovery agents from this particular company sending him threats, and things to just make him apprehensive and look for a way to pay one way or the other, even if he has to sell his kidney. And of course, he does not have the money. There's nothing he can do. And so the next thing they do is they start to post pictures of him, send broadcast messages to his contacts, persons, contacts that he did not give them. Maybe they search for it somehow, and then they send broadcast messages that so person is a fraudster, do not have any business with him, do not do this with him, basically trying to excommunicate him from the society because he borrowed money. Like, we all don't borrow money one way or the other. And some of them even go as far as posting his pictures with obituary written on it. Like, this guy is living, he's not dead, and then you go ahead, you're not even a member of his family, and then you post obituary on his picture. So today we'll be talking about what rights does this man as a debtor have. Yes, we know he's owing, but does that mean that he has no rights whatsoever? So Mr. Itayo will be enlightening us on his rights. So yes, sir. So based on our story, sir, let's start from the privacy rights. So just for instance, now he has given them information and he gave them like a guarantor, maybe just one. But these people now have, like, how do they even come in contact with all other contact details? That they now have the opportunity or the access to send these broadcast messages. Like, is that not a breach of privacy? Or is there like a legal ground for that?
Okay, thank you, Fola. So, I love the illustration you just gave now, and I'm sure that a number of our viewers must have received one message or the other that is similar to this. I see a lot of this even with folks that I don't even know that possibly have my contact. And then what just baffles me the most usually is being in debt is not a crime.
It's not a crime.
It's not a crime. It's a transaction, and one of the pillars of contract is the fact that it's a private thing. It's a private thing. It's supposed to be treated sometimes as confidential because it's a private arrangement between two parties. And that's why even in some contracts you will see privacy policy, non-disclosure, this and that. Some of these things can actually be implied into transactions involving money exchange, like loan and the likes. But when we see this kind of thing, which is now becoming the order of the day, the question is it valid? Now, I will make bold to say that this is wrong in all ways. This is not valid. Your contract is private. And when you now choose to go out to the public to begin to disgrace somebody, it can actually be a basis for the person to go to court. So what we need to talk about really is what are the right things to do. If we are saying that it's wrong for you to go all out and start embarrassing somebody just because the person got a loan and couldn't repay at the time. The question is, was there any agreement? Was there any agreement that was signed between parties? If there was no agreement, did you guys agree on terms and conditions? Did they form part of the clauses, part of the agreement that if you don't pay me, I will report you to everybody? It reminds me of those days in school as a secondary school pupil, when you borrow small money from a friend and the friend says, if you don't pay me, I'll report you to our teacher. But so I mean, that's just on a light note. But as adults, it's important to understand that it's a private thing, and there are places you can hear your grievances. If somebody or an entity or an institution has refused to live up to contractual terms, you simply go to court. There could be a clause saying that it's going to be by mediation. Simply do mediation. If the clause says it's arbitration, do arbitration. If it says you find a neutral third party or whatever, do mediation. Just do those things instead of going all out in such a way that you infringe the privacy of the person you dealt with, and you do other things that now put you in trouble. Remember, two wrongs don't make a right. Exactly. So I hope I've been able to speak on some of these things.
And then I think one major problem that these debt companies or these loan companies have to tackle is the fact that many of them, venture into that space or that business without having like a firm understanding of how it would work. So they just see the beginning and they don't see the process.
True.
They give out their money. It's just like, okay, 1 + 1 = 2. But 1 + 1 might not always be 2. 2 - 1 will be 1. Do you understand? Like, true, I don't know if you.
I actually have a story to tell to that. We do a lot of debt recovery, and I remember one of those periods that we were out on the field trying to play the role of a mediator, getting the debtor to pay. And we went to I'm not going to mention the street or the area now, but went to what some will arguably say is the most expensive street in Lagos. And this was the address that this debtor used to get the loan. And then we got there only to meet an abandoned building, some buildings away from the place of political power. And we got there and we're shocked. And we started wondering, did this loan company do their due diligence? Did they do a background check? So just as you mentioned, a number of entities do not put in effort to do background check. And if you're going to get this right, what you should think of deeply is the cost of pursuing the recovery of your money. Why not just put it into ensuring that you cross your T's and dot your I's? Do your proper due diligence. If you need to master the trick about doing due diligence, maybe it might be what the team can talk about in some other series, to really go deep into how you get your due diligence done, so that at the end of the day, you don't build something on nothing without proper foundation.
Because I think most of them are just after the interest rates. Oh, okay, I'll give you money, you give me back, and we're forgetting that Nigeria is not so it's not stable, and then someone can have money today and not have tomorrow.
Things happen.
Exactly.
Things happen.
And I think another problem we have with loan sharks that go after people is the fact that they put pressure on their agents, and so even if they don't want to go through illegal means to recover, these agents already feel like, I have a target to meet, so by whatsoever means I must meet up with my target. So if it means I have to spit out charms to these clients to make them apprehensive and want to pay up, then I'll do whatever it is. I think that's why we have situations of agents posting obituary on clients.
I can also relate with that too. Like there was one of those customers that we managed who, before we started managing him, had gone, he had locked up for many years. and the loan was already considered as, look, this is a bad debt for us, let's move on. But the bank in question, the financial institution, decided to give it a try. And you know, when we came in, we saw, we started the relationship, which is what agents should really do. We started from there, we're able to get a meeting, and this guy had to open up that, look, what made me to come out of that shell was because I saw in the content of what you shared with me to start the relationship, I saw something different. And when we got into the old gist, we realized that he could have paid the money. The only reason he didn't pay the money was because there was an agent somewhere who, in a bid to get him to pay by every means, went to his church to report him, went to his office to report him, badmouthed him everywhere. And indeed, he was in bad debt. He was in big, serious debt at the point. Things went rough. He had medical issues. A lot of things happened, and nobody cared. So it was just like this whole thing affected him. Right in his church, he had to leave the church office. He had to move on because of the bad mouthing and because of series of things that happened. So yes, it's also a call to, you know, agents, recovery agents, to master the being professional in their approach towards recovery, towards debt recovery, so that relationships can be, you know, solidified. Because at the end of the day, you never can tell the opportunity that some of these debtors today will be able to offer the financial institutions tomorrow. The financial institutions, one of the ways they thrive is through the giving out of loan. And when things happen and how they treat things at that point would also determine if they would be embraced much later. You know, I have the story of someone as well who, having gone through all of those mental pressure with pain and all of that, now this guy recovered, paid all his debt, and now became a top shark, like became a top guy within an institution. And within that institution, they needed partners, financial partners, to give projects to. And he said he was to approve this thing. And when it came to his desk and he saw the name of this financial institution, he took it and said, these people, they are not going anywhere because they do not have the empathy. That kind of empathy that makes them, you know, sees people through their down period and brings them up and still keep the relationship. So, you know, for as many agents, whether it's financial institution, this kind of conversation is very important. It's something that they have to take note of in ensuring that it's a win-win for everybody, and that's how it's supposed to be.
Exactly. And something they can do is they can train their agents in the art of debt recovery. So you want to give them tips on how to handle debtors. Yes, there are some debtors that can be difficult, but no matter how hard they are, you can still crack them. Just, you know, with the right words or having the right tips at hand. So so I'd like to ask, for debtors that have been defamed now, like practically speaking, what can they do? The instance I see my picture, not my picture, the debtor's picture, and then there's obituary written over it. And then this person, this agent has sent it to me that if you don't pay before 12 p.m., I'm going to send this to the whole world. What can I do at that instance? How can I mitigate, you know, whatever thing that debtor is about to do?
Interesting. So people frame people, and that's an example of, you know, framing somebody up, which it's how you look at it. This kind of situation could even qualify for, could qualify as a tortious liability, could qualify as even a breach of relationship, which is by implication, not necessarily the principal transaction now, because you will say, oh, you're already in default, but you look at it that the contract is different from this that we are saying. So the error that some lawyers might be making at that point is in infusing the contractual transaction into this. They are two different things. They are two different things, because if somebody goes to, threaten and say, oh, I'm posting obituary if you don't do this, or even actually goes on to do that, it's already something that is damaging to the person's image. So these are things that one can look at, and I've always been an advocate of, we need to sample, we need to pick people out there and find scapegoats that can honestly, it's something that has to be done, and one way or the other we have to do it. And it's not just about the court system now. The courts are going to be key stakeholders, the security agencies are going to be key stakeholders, because for you to even post obituary, then it goes to show that one can never tell the next thing that would happen. If you are posting obituary, it doesn't mean that you may send
someone to kill them.
mercenaries to go after these people. So which is why I said it's something that can really be expanded. It's how you look at it, and many stakeholders, both from the criminal liability angle to the civil liability angle to the tortious liability angle, a lot of stakeholders will be involved, depending on the remedy that you are seeking to pursue.
Okay, so for instance, I want to bring it down because I know many people out there are going through this. So, of course, seeking redress in court is an option, but in that moment, what can they do?
So first thing first, once that happens, keep your conversation, keep your records. And as soon as it happens, you may want to consult a lawyer. Consult a lawyer that can guide you through is one of those things you can do practically. Another thing you can do is you may also want to lodge a formal complaint with the security agencies. It could be now I understand there's a neighborhood watch, right? And then the Nigerian police is there, which is the principal security law enforcement agency. And if you're going through your lawyer, consult your lawyer early enough so that your lawyer can champion all of the efforts of now being at the forefront of relating with security agencies and then taking up an action in court on your behalf to protect your right and ensure that you do not have to be harassed unnecessarily.
Okay, so you've heard, all that Mr. Itai Ogunyemi has said today. So if you have been harassed or you are being harassed by a debt recovery agent, just see a lawyer. If you can't afford the services of a lawyer, go to the security agent, the police, go and meet them. They can write a petition. Yeah. So petition these people. Don't just leave them to, defame you and go scot-free, thinking they can do the same to the next, debtor that is already or has already defaulted. So,
and don't also think it's a crime to be in debt. Nigeria is actually in debt.
Yes, Nigeria is in debt.
I'm not sure I know of a country that is not in debt,
exactly.
technically speaking. US is in debt, a number of countries are actually in debt. So it's not a crime. It's not a crime to be in default of your contractual obligation to repay a loan or the interest on the loan that you got from a money lending company.
Yes, and also I would like to advise you as debtors, before your debt becomes due, you might want to send a mail if you know you'll not be able to pay on your due date. So just send them a mail that you're still committed to paying your debt, but things are not so smooth right now, and then you'll be making, you'll be making payments at a further date, so they don't come at you. So, Mr. Itai, do you have any other thing to say to our viewers?
Well, so pattern short, pattern word. This will go out to the financial institutions. And, one of those things you can use to ensure that you are doing something different within the money lending space is to work on your privacy documents when it comes to your money lending activities. And it's not all institutions that try to go through regulations relating to the privacy of people that they deal with. And there are regulations, there are regulatory provisions from the 1999 Constitution that guides the privacy of citizens to, I think there is one from the NIT that now, there's a regulatory framework for privacy and all of that. Now, you have to be at the forefront of understanding this legal framework that would make you different. And this is one of those things that would make your brand to be different when you are up to date in your style of practice based on what the law is saying. When you also take into consideration there are consumer protection provisions as well, which relate as well to privacy. So don't just be among those financial institutions that give out loan and is not paying attention to the legal framework for all of these activities. You must do more, and we encourage you to do more really.
So, on your parting notes, make sure you do more. Thank you for joining us for another insightful session with Accent Debt Recovery. Till next time, bye.